This is the third time I have filmed this video, so I really hope it saves this time. So hey guys, and welcome to another video, and welcome to a video that I have been trying to film for a very long time. I originally filmed this video a few months ago and the audio did not sync up with the picture, and then I tried to film it again and my computer deleted it during the exporting process. So hopefully this is going to be third time a charm. Now, I was inspired to make this video by Candice over at Librarian Fan Mail because she did a video quite a long time ago now about nasty books, and when she says nasty books she means nasty in the good way, that really get under your skin and work out really well to sort of set out what they are trying to do. Now, she gave her own recommendations in this video, so I will leave her video linked below, and I highly suggest you go click that after you've done with this one. But right now I am just going to show you the books that I consider to be particularly nasty. So the first book that I'm going to mention is actually one that Candice actually mentions in her video too, and that is Your House is on Fire, Your Children Are All Gone by Stephen Kiesby, whose name I really like. This is sort of a collection of short stories which is connected by a small town. These stories are pretty fucked up, basically. The thing that I highly recommend this book is that it is a book that gets under your skin and creeps you out in a way without using excessive gore or grossness. But the way it works so well is sort of in the emptiness of the narration, if that makes any sense. For instance, in one of these stories, a little boy, I think he's about 10 years old, wants to go into this carnival, and the carnival man sort of jokes and scares him away and tells him that you can go in if you bring me a soul. And the little kid sort of takes this a little bit too literally. So at home later that evening when everyone is sleeping, he actually suffocates his sister in her sleep to collect her soul, and it's very drawn out and just empty sounding, and it was done really well. There are other ones obviously, and I looked on Goodreads and this sort of gets mixed reviews, but I for one really enjoyed it, and enjoyed might be a bad word for it, but I thought it was really good. Yes, that is my first nasty book. Next book I have to show you is not so much a book, but just an author in general, and that is going to be Jack Ketchum, who did the Offspring series, The Girl Next Door. Basically, Jack Ketchum is prolific for being as gross and disturbing as he can possibly be in his stories. His books are filled with gore and disturbing characters and rape and murder and everything like that. But I for one actually really just enjoy his stories. They have sort of a pulpy horror vibe to them. They're sort of a bit over the top. The characters are never that deep, but it's one of those books that it's less about the characters and more about the suspense and tenseness of the situations. His novel The Girl Next Door is basically about a group of teenage boys who abduct a local girl from the community and hide her in their friend's basement with the mother's knowledge, and they basically spend the entire book torturing her. It's a very hard book to get through, but it is one that I thought was done really well, and probably if you were going to read anything by this author, I would suggest The Girl Next Door. For my third recommendation, I'm going to go with Geek Love by Catherine Dunn. I've actually lent this book to a friend at the moment, so I don't have it here to show you, but this is the cover. This is probably one of the most weirdest books I've ever read. This is basically about a family of like traveling carnival people. Basically, the mum and dad expose themselves to as much radiation as possible to ensure that any offspring they create is deranged or weird in some general way. In this book there are like Siamese twins, there are people with webbed hands who look like frogs, there's a dwarf albino. Basically, these are the world's worst parents. In this story, our main character is actually the dwarf albino, who is seen as sort of the worst of the family for just being generally the most uninteresting. Throughout the novel, she actually sort of develops a crush on her brother, the sort of squid boy with the webbed fingers and webbed feet. There is also stuff to do with cults, weird sex stuff. It gets a little nasty. But overall, I thought this was another book that was really well done. It was actually written in the 80s, I believe, and I believe it's the only book that she's ever actually wrote, which is a little bit disappointing because she clearly has a screwed up mind, and I want to know what else she could do with that. The next one I have to show you is actually a rather recent release, and that is Nosferatu by Joe Hill. Almost forgot that then. This is quite a large book. This is about 600 pages. It's sort of a weird, fucked up vampire Christmas story in a weird way. It also has some really like fantastical elements where a girl sort of rides her bike and if she pictures it in her mind where she wants to go, a tunnel will appear, and when she goes through the tunnel on her bike, she will actually be in that place. This peculiar talent of hers, she actually sort of attracts the attention of this weird killer slash vampire slash person from Christmasland, and he spends the novel trying to get her, basically. This was a really original story. I've definitely never read anything like it before. It was sort of urban fantasy horror in a way. I wouldn't say it was high fantasy, but there are some fantasy elements. The bike riding, as I say. And while it is 600 pages, it definitely did not feel like 600 pages when I was reading it, which is important when it comes to big books. If you have never read anything by Joe Hill, I highly suggest his other books, especially Horns, which is about to be made into a movie with Daniel Radcliffe. I mean, if that's not going to make you interested, what will? Then the last nasty book I have to show you is pretty much the ultimate nasty book, I would think, and that is American Psycho by Bret Easton Ellis. This is probably the goriest book I've ever read. It's a heavy satire on sort of 80s commercialism, and there's a lot of bad sex and lots of violence. I actually did my dissertation on this book, which says a lot. I studied it pretty much from back to front. I am pretty much desensitized to sex and violence at this point. This is probably not a book for everyone. It has a very heavy style over substance sort of writing that I don't think everyone will appreciate, but the description of nasty books, this is probably the one that fits it the most. So yes, those are my nasty book recommendations for you. In the comments below, leave me some of your own books that you would consider nasty. The more gore, the better, why not? But yes, that is going to be all from me for today. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please give it a thumbs up so I know that you like the videos that I make, and I shall see you soon with another one. Goodbye!